appreciate you joining on the podcast today, man. Always a pleasure.
Of
I
course.
appreciate you hitting me back, man, and getting
No
me back to
worries.
me quick, man. I really appreciate it. So, man, I've done a little bit of research, not too much, but enough to definitely know kind of what you're about and the type of producer and your musical talents. And I definitely want to dive into just kind of your process, man, and how you got to where you were and are now, and just that background of just what kind of got you into music and who you were before music, I guess.
For sure, bro. I'm super down to get into all of that. I appreciate it. Thanks again for having me on.
Yes, sir. So let me just start asking a little about your background. Like I said, I mean, what got you into music and what kind of inspired you to start creating?
Man, honestly, I have loved music as long as I can remember. Ever since I was a little kid, like when I was, just maybe 5, 6 years old. I remember playing hockey. I grew up here in Canada. So you kind of don't have a choice. Everybody plays hockey, and especially with me, my
Right.
dad's French Canadian, so there was really no option. You're gonna play hockey, and they used to put on music during the practices that we would have, and I always remember like some of my earliest memories just getting really pumped up, really amped on the ice and just like playing significantly better because I was just, I don't know, man. I was just the adrenaline got going or something. And that was, I think, the earliest memory that I have that music really like had a strong impact on me, but
Okay.
it wasn't until I was like 8 years old I started taking piano lessons. My parents put me in piano. I didn't really like it, but I think it was good to kind of get some foundation. It was classical piano and you had to play everything by the book. Wasn't really my thing, but by the time I was 12, my parents got me a guitar, and that was really, when I was into like rock, and like at the time it was like Blink-182 and Sum 41 and that kind of pop punk thing was big at the time, Green Day and whatnot,
Yep.
um and so, yeah, that was, I got obsessed with that. I started learning all those songs. I made my first band when I was like 13 years old, and we were called For Never, a very
There it is.
13-year-old type of name. Yeah, there it is, exactly. And yeah, from there, I just kind of fell deeper and deeper in love with it. Like I had an amazing teacher, Carl Bavell. Shout out to him. We recently just reconnected, and he was one of my first real guitar teachers when I was like 13, 14. He showed me all the fundamentals, like my first scales and music theory and just like how to do everything kind of properly from jump, and yeah, I took lessons with him for 3 years. He showed me Van Halen, and that was really like, you know, people talk about an aha moment.
Yeah.
I was
Once you learn
telling
that Van Halen, it's like, "Oh, I'm on the next level now. I know
That's what
exactly
I'm
what it's
saying.
about."
As a guitar
That's so
player, it's
wild,
definitely
yeah.
I had
Oh, for
never heard
sure.
anything like that. Yeah, and so I was listening to pop punk and doing my power chords and stuff, and then all of a sudden I hear Van Halen, and it was like, "Oh, this is like a whole other level. Like, what is this?" And
For real.
I remember being like, "I wanna do that," in my lesson, and Carl was sort of like, "All right, man, like, you're gonna have to practice, like, every day, all day type of thing," and I was like, "I don't care, like, I'll do it," and that's what I started doing. I spent a whole summer learning Eruption and solos like Crazy Train and Stairway to Heaven, all this type of stuff, just classic rock stuff that I got obsessed with when I was like 14 to, 16 especially. And then from there I just kept progressing, man. I just like I was hungry, I kept wanting to learn. And so then the natural thing was to get into jazz because it got even more sophisticated there. And so then I started taking lessons with like a jazz guitarist, Mike Rudd, who's also one of my big influences and an amazing teacher that kind of, changed my life just like Carl. And, ended up going to music school from there. And so, it was really like an evolution, you know what I mean? Sort of
Right.
step by step. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, I know you talked about that about when you learning Van Halen, but, what would you say at what point would you say that you kinda realized, "Oh, man, like, I can really make this my life, like, this is I can make this into something bigger," and to
Mm.
just turning that passion into a life, you know what I mean?
It's a great question. There wasn't really a moment I think where I was like, "Oh, I can make this something." It was more just like, I love this so much that I can't imagine not doing this. Like, truly,
Right,
I was just I think from the age of 14, like, I knew I looking back on it, like, it seems maybe absurd to say, but I think on some level, even at the age of 14, I knew really deep down that, like, there was no way I was not gonna do music. Like, that was just something I
for
loved
sure.
too much, and to not do it would be like betraying myself, basically, you know what I mean? And so it wasn't like I wasn't even thinking about it like a career or anything at that point, you know? I think it wasn't until maybe I was in college that I started actually thinking about, "Okay, what can I do with this?" I was already in music school though, and I didn't know what else I would have gone to school for, you know? And so then it was like, "Okay, I gotta, like, you know, teach and play gigs and maybe do recording sessions and whatever."
Right.
But I didn't really start getting into production until after I finished my undergrad, you know? So,
Okay, so that's
uh
wow, okay, I didn't know that you didn't start until then. Okay, wow, so
yeah, I
that's
mean, I was
pretty
playing
impressive.
guitar for a solid decade before I started producing. Yeah, yeah.
Right. That's
Mhm.
impressive, man. So now you say you're producing. What was your I mean, what was your first placement, you know, or kind of that moment where you're like, "Man, I'm really
My
kind of
first,
I'm good at
like,
this."
first right, like, first placement, like, as a producer, like, with a like, a notable artist, you mean? Like, somebody, um
Yeah, I mean, anybody that kind of, you know, made it, I guess, you know, maybe somebody put the guitar on a track or just anything that kind of
Mhm.
started, I guess, the
Right.
start, and then maybe, I guess, maybe your
You mean, like,
biggest.
very beginning. Got you, yeah.
Correct, yeah, and
Um,
then
yeah, my very first placement, it's funny, I hadn't thought about this until recently, but was with a rapper in Boston named Kyle Bent, and shout out to
oh, I
Kyle
know who
Bent.
that is.
Um
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know who that
and,
is.
yeah, Kyle, he had a good following in Boston, and, I lived in
Yeah,
Boston for 5
yeah,
years, and, you know, I did my master's there in music, and, I love Boston. I had a really good time, and I ended up getting connected with him, and he was the first artist, I think, that paid me for beats that actually and that was, like, 10 years ago. It was probably 2015, 2016,
yeah.
and, I remember being, like, stoked because it was the first time somebody
First
was
time you're getting
paying me
paid
for
to
a
be
track.
doing something that you love. Yeah,
Well,
that's
especially
what's
as a
up.
producer, because 'cause I'd been doing it as a musician, like, I've been doing gigs and teaching lessons and doing a lot of musician stuff, but I hadn't placed beats, you know what I mean? I really started
Yeah,
producing, like, in 2011, 2012, and this was, like, 2015, I guess 2016 when I got those records, and it was like 3 songs on his album, you know? And, I was just so hyped because it was like a whole new lane for me, you know?
right.
And so, yeah, it was Kyle Bent, and then, from there, when I moved to New York, I worked with a lot of different independent artists. My boy Gael, who's a really, really close friend of mine, amazing artist, amazing rapper. He and I did like a whole project together. And yeah, it was like it's called Black Denim. It's like 7 or 8 songs. And he was the first artist that we really like locked in and like built a project with. And as a result,
Right.
became really good friends too. He's still one of my best friends to this day. And yeah, that was like a whole other experience too, rather than just sort of like sending beats but really building a project with an artist, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, those
Right.
2 guys were huge, and there was a few other different, artists in New York that I work with, but it wasn't until I met T Minus that I really got into the bigger leagues of, like, artists that, you know, maybe the average person would know,
Yeah,
you
man.
know?
I saw you were working with T Minus obviously on the Cole album that just dropped, man. How did you, you know, meet him, T Minus, and how did that, you know, connection
Yeah,
form?
it's a funny story, actually, so, you know, basically, I was living in New York in 2020 when COVID hit and everything shut down, right? Everything just stopped completely. And nobody really knew what was going on. You know, this was like an unprecedented thing in all of our lives, right? And
Right.
so at the time, you know, I was in my apartment in New York, stuck for like 2, 3 weeks. And after a certain point, I was like, okay, like, I'm going to go back to Canada and just wait this thing out. We don't really know what's going on. So I went back to Ottawa, where I grew up, which is a few hours north of Toronto, and I was just staying with my parents for, like, that summer, and it's kind of hilarious, but I was single at the time. I was on the dating apps. I was on Bumble, and I met this girl. We started dating, whatever, and she was like, "Oh, do you know T Minus, the producer?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, like T Minus, like you good T Minus, like J Cole,
Yeah,
Drake, whatever."
yeah,
She was like, "Oh
yeah.
yeah, that's my girlfriend's boyfriend. It's his wife now." And they were friends that used to work together. And so, anyways, we had started dating, and she was like, "You got to meet, T Minus at some point." And so she introduced me, and basically I went over there, and shout out to her, by the way. Shout out to my ex-girlfriend.
Definitely, yeah.
Because if it wasn't for her, hey, I don't know if any of this
You
would
know,
have
who
happened,
knows,
bro.
right? Who knows if you would've
Yeah,
got
who
in the
knows? Who
door.
knows? And so, me and T just hit it off, I brought my guitar the first time I met him, and we cooked up a bit, and we just immediately, had the same kind of sense of humor. We're almost the same age. He's like a year older than me. And our birthdays are actually a day apart, but just 1 year and a day apart.
Okay.
And not to whatever Pisces, if you're into that,
Hey,
but
I'm not knocking
we
you,
hit
man,
it
but yeah, I
off,
get it.
and, yeah, we cooked
Yeah.
up, I remember the first beat we made, it was, like, such a vibe, and I was also blown away by his skill and ability. I was just like, "Man, he's so quick and incredibly good with the computer and just the drum choices and the patterns and the
Oh, yeah.
programming," and we just cooked up some fire, and he was like, "Yo, you gotta come back," and so I started going to his house, like, every weekend that summer 2020, and after a couple months, he basically was like, "Yo, what's your deal? Like, I wanna sign you. What if you, like, came to Toronto?" And I was like, "Well, shit," like, I thought I was gonna go back to New York, you know what I mean? That was kinda always my
Yeah,
plan. I was just in Canada temporarily, but this COVID thing wasn't going anywhere, and so I said, "Okay, well, I got nothing for me back in New York, and now I've got this, like, new relationship and this new thing with T Minus." So I said, "Okay, let's do it, YOLO," and,
for
moved back
real.
to Canada, and, yeah, never looked back since, I guess.
That's wild, man. So how
Yeah.
how long how long ago was that, when you
That was
met him, started working with him
I guess
consistently?
almost 6 years ago. So I was 20 I moved
Okay.
to Toronto in September 2020.
Man,
So
that's
yeah, it was
wild.
really right, in the thick of COVID, and we cooked up for, like, a solid year. Um, just I was going out to his house, like, 3 times a week. We were just making beats before I actually met Cole and, like, did a trip with him?
Okay, yeah,
So,
so, I mean, you've been working with him for about a year, and then kinda how long did it take for you to kinda get in that studio with, some of those big artists that he is famous for working with? Or
yeah,
I
I mean,
guess,
it wasn't until yeah. It was over a year at least, like, it was also a weird
yeah,
time, you know what I mean? Linking up during COVID, it was not typical times, sometimes I forget how much of an alternate reality that felt like, But when I
oh,
actually think about it, it
God,
was
man.
like a weird we were all kinda like, "What's going on?" We can't go out, we can't travel, we can't do this, can't do that. It's like all these rules. But, it was basically about a little over a year later when, he went to LA, and I think it was December 21, and he was like, "Yo, I'm going to LA to work with Cole, like, if you wanna come, you can come, but you gotta sort of figure your own shit out, like, find a place to stay, whatever, whatever." And I was like, "Well, I'm not
Right.
gonna miss this opportunity." So, I hit up one of my friends in LA, stayed on his couch, and basically just would pull up to the sessions, and that was when I first met Cole in person. I had met Cole previous to that on, like, FaceTime, because sometimes when we were cooking up with T-Minus, he would just, like, FaceTime Cole, and it was,
Right.
kind of, I was awestruck the first couple times that happened, but then when I met him, Cole already kinda knew me from FaceTime. He's like, "Oh, you're the guitar player from, like, FaceTime, right?" And, I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So then we cooked up in LA for, like it was like a week or maybe 2 weeks. We were just he had everybody there. It was like Wu-Tang and Elite and Diesel and T and, yeah, it was like the whole Dreamville crew. And it
Okay,
was
so the first your
well
first time working with Cole was in LA on that trip. Okay,
yeah,
got you.
that was my first
Okay,
time in person. Yeah, 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 yeah.
okay. That's what's up, man. I mean, tell me about that experience working with him. Obviously, he's a musical mastermind, right? One of the greatest ever rappers ever. I mean,
Cole
how did it feel
yeah,
being in the
Co
room with
oh,
some of
yeah.
those guys, man?
Oh, they're all amazing, man. There's so much talent in that crew. I can't say enough good about them, and they're also just such great people. just super down to earth, no BS, like, just no ego shit, it's really refreshing, to be honest, so shout out to Dreamville and Cole, and honestly, it's one of those things where I feel like when the leader is like that, it sort of trickles down, you know what I mean? And Cole really is that kinda leader, like, he's a man of the people. He's a good dude, he wants the best. He doesn't think he's above anybody, it would be very easy for him to act that way, but he doesn't, and that says a lot about his character, you know what I mean? And T minus
Yeah.
honestly is the same way. And so those guys inspire me not just musically, but really as a person in that way as well. But man, it varies so much, like the sessions, but like it's always a blast, because it's always high level. Like I've done sessions where it was just me, T, and Cole. I've done sessions where it was just me and Cole. I've done sessions where it's like the whole crew. It's like, we're all cooking up together and it's like Woo and Diesel and me and T and Cole and
Yeah.
Elites and whoever else is there. It really just depends. Like Cole, he likes to switch things up and try new things, you know what I mean? That's one of the things I love most about working with him, and I think it's pretty
Mhm.
obvious if you listen to the album, right? Like, he's just into lots of different stuff. He likes to take risks, and when I kinda got into the picture, I think it sorta opened maybe his mind up to, like, some of the possibilities of things he could do specifically with guitar because that's my specialty, and so he'd
Right.
be like, "Yo, like, what if you did a guitar thing like this? Or what if we did like a classic rock type of thing? Or what if we did like a Spanish guitar type of," he would throw these ideas at me and then I'd be like, "Okay, what about this?" And we would kind of vibe and find things like that. And that's how some of the stuff on the album came to be, like
I was
the
just
third
gonna ask how
yeah,
that sound came to be because hear so much guitar, especially on, the Leto, obviously, that's all you, but, man, like,
right.
all throughout the project, man, it's just so much more guitar than I feel like I had, I guess, noticed on past from past Cole projects, so,
Yeah, yeah.
it was a really cool direction he went, man, and
Yeah,
y'all
yeah,
went with
definitely.
the album, so,
Yeah, I
very
mean,
impressive,
I'm
man.
I'm grateful that he just liked guitar and he liked my playing and my ideas and man, him and Minus, they always really treated me like an equal, man. They were so open to anything I wanted to try or any ideas I had. But yeah, I think Cole got into a vibe where like maybe around the end of 2022, when I started really kind of working with him more officially, and he would kind of be like, "Yo, like, he was getting into Radiohead and Pink Floyd and Zeppelin and stuff that kinda I grew up with, you know what I mean? It was
Yeah,
really, like, my ballpark, and so he would throw ideas at me and be like, "Yo, like, what if you played this but made it sound like Radiohead? Or what if you did this and we made it like a Pink Floyd thing?" And you can kinda hear that on, like, the 39 intro, like, the way we have all these different sections. That was
yeah,
very much inspired by those type of, like, kind of progressive rock, alternative sorta artists, Radiohead is probably my favorite band of all time. Pink Floyd is up there, Zeppelin's up there,
definitely.
and so those type of guitar textures, they really inspired, us, I think for the record, and then once we did 39 intro and the Let Out, I you know, my feeling is that Cole was like, "Oh, I like this kinda texture, and I wanna bring it to more of the song so that it's kind of a through line, throughout the album." And that's when he sort of brought me out to add guitar to like Legacy and Hit the Gas and sort of Poor Thing, all the other songs that I was a part of, so
That's crazy, man. How long ago were these songs created, man? Like,
man, it
how
really
long ago was it?
depends. Every song is different, 39
Yeah.
intro, we did basically like the first half that was like me and T minus and Woo and Cole, like that was December 2022 we did that, so like over 3 years ago.
Oh, man, so
Um
that's been in the works, in the
Yeah, it's
archives
it's
for a
been
minute.
sitting for a long time, and it was like it
Man,
was moving around too. At one point, it was gonna be the intro for the whole album, and then it wasn't, and then it's like there's a lot of back and forth, when you're making a
yeah,
project, especially a project like The Fall Off that's gonna be like, sort of like a closing chapter in a lot of ways, Cole was
right.
really he was trying, I think, every possible, combination of things to get the best result, but that's how he
That's what the
is.
great artists do, though. That's what the
Yeah, that's what
great
I
best
mean. You
artists do, is
try
they
every
continue to
option,
evolve. Yeah,
Exactly. That's the only way you're gonna know, what the best one is, you know? And so, and him and Minus are both like that, you know? Minus will spend, 45 minutes finding a snare drum, you know? It's like,
Right.
is dedication, you know? But yeah, that song was, like, over 3 years old. The Let Out we did the beat mostly summer 2023, so not too long after that, so that was also a couple like 2.5 years. Um, there was
That's
also
wild,
man,
man.
most of those other songs that I played on, man, funny enough, like Poor Thing, Hit the Gas, um, Life Sentence, and, Legacy, I did them all last year,
Oh, really?
because
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
and most of those, funny enough, well, there was a couple we did because I went to Dreamville Fest, and I ended up staying for a week after and working with Cole at his house in North Carolina, and me and Minus were just doing like, that's when we did Life Sentence, which I had to, like, remake the sample because it's a sample from, Craig David,
Craig David,
and
yep. Mhm.
yeah, it was, like, so challenging to do because it was from, like, a live recording, and they wanted me to play it, like, exactly the way the sample was, and if you know anything about trying to do that, it's like trying to clone somebody's voice, you know what I mean? It's, like,
Yeah,
almost
dang near
impossible, you know?
impossible, but it's
Yeah, and
still possible, but
possible, but
yeah,
tedious, you know? And me and
yeah,
T-Minus managed to make it happen by basically going, like, almost like second by second, just playing like one little piece of the lick until I got it to feel exactly like it, and then he would paste that together with the next piece because it was, like, impossible to play the whole thing exactly the way this one guy played it on the live recording, you know what I mean?
that's so
Um,
crazy.
yeah, but the other sessions like, Legacy and Hit the Gas were like, uh, those were kinda crazy because they were, like, one-day sessions where Cole would hit me up at, like, 1 PM on, like, a Tuesday and be like, "Yo, like, we got you a flight for 4 PM. Can you come to New York?" I was like, "I guess I'm going to New York," and
Might as
so,
well, I got to
I
now.
mean, I'm not saying no, you know, and so I would
Yeah,
go, get on the flight, get to, like, the studio at, like, 6, 7 PM, go straight into the session, record till, like, 2 in the morning, go straight to my hotel, sleep 4 hours, and get up and get on an airplane back home. Like, really, like, I'd be in New York for, like, 17 hours kinda thing, you know?
that's so crazy, man. I mean, was
So,
it
yeah, that's yeah.
I'm gonna go back a little bit, man. Was that a
Mhm,
nervous kinda, I mean, how I guess it probably must have been a crazy realization, kinda your first time being in the studio with a legend, obviously, going in there, and like you said, you're working with Wu and all them, so, I mean,
mhm,
like, how did that kind of those nerves that you had back then kinda shape the work you were doing? And now obviously you probably don't get them anymore since you've been working extensively with
mhm.
these big artists and producers, but, like, that progression, man, in your own work, I'm sure it came a long way.
Man, that's a great question, you know, and it's funny, definitely I mean, I feel like I've always been pretty confident, and I knew that, like, I'd been doing music for so long. I knew I had the ability, I had confidence in my skills and whatnot, but you're right, I had never been in a room with an artist like that, certainly, not that level, and, I think, it was one of those things where you have to kind of my mindset is that you have to treat it like any other session. Like, in
Facts.
any
Yeah.
session that I'm in, I'm trying to crush it and do my absolute best, right? So it's like, it's no different if it's with Cole or if it's with an indie artist, you know what I mean? So I think if you treat it that way, where it's like when I hear athletes say like they play their best every game, you know what I mean? You want to play your best every game. It's not like because it's the championship that you're going to play better. Like you should always be playing like it's a championship. I really do believe that, and
Yeah.
so I really I don't know, man. Like I wasn't shy to be honest when I first got in there. Like I was trying to like add guitar parts to everything and find a pocket and everywhere I could, you know. You know, I think even T minus probably told me I had to chill out a little bit at the beginning, because I was really like determined to get
Trying to
in there,
assert
you know what
yourself a
I
little
mean?
bit, yeah, I mean, but that's how
Yeah, yeah. And he was
you gotta
like,
give
"Yo,
yourself in
relax."
there, and that's how you
Yeah,
gotta get
exactly.
that sound out there, and, obviously
That's what
anybody
I
can pick it
mean.
up. Anybody in the
But
studio can pick it up and be like, "Alright."
T's T's been a great mentor because he's very, like, good at being like, "Yo, just, like, get in where you fit in, like, don't force it. There's gonna be an opportunity for you, and when it comes, take it, but don't push it too hard," which I think at the very beginning, I might have, just sort of been a little too eager, you know what I mean? But over time, yeah, I got in there, I got more familiar, I got more comfortable. I also, got some records and I knew that these guys respected me and you kind of relax over time. But yeah, there were definitely times where I was nervous. I remember the first time Cole flew me out, which is when we did 39 intro. There was another song that I don't know if it'll ever come out, but there I was like noodling around the guitar and I came up with this riff that was just really difficult to play. And I wasn't, I was just noodling in the corner and Cole was just like, yo, what is that? That's hard. Like, you'll record that. And we were in this room in his apartment. Like, we weren't at the proper studio for these sessions. We were just cooking up ideas in his apartment. And we had this like makeshift studio in the living room. And the only way to record acoustic guitar was everybody had to be quiet. So he's just like, yo, everybody shut up. Steve's gonna record. And I was just like, yeah, this is
I'm
this
on
is
the
kind of
spot.
great.
I gotta
Like, I'm on the
yeah,
spot.
that's
Like, I
nuts.
distinctly remember that moment and being like, shit, like, why did I have to play that right now when I haven't had a chance to practice it? I just came up with it. And now he's like, yo, record this and everybody shut up and watch Steve, basically. I mean, he wasn't trying to put pressure on me, but that's sort of what ended up
He liked
happening.
that sound, so he needed to
So
hear that sound again. Did you end up recording it
exactly.
exactly how you played it the first time? Like, you got it okay, bet.
I
Okay.
remember I fumbled it the first time and then I was starting to feel the nerves and I had to like just deep breath, and I was like I had a mental self-talk moment where I was like, "Yo, like, you can play this. Just play it. It's good. Like, you're good." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's no one
Yeah.
else here. Just play it, man. You're good. You've played with the metronome many times because I had the click and the metronome, and I got it on the second try. But after I got it, I remember distinctly, like, going to the bathroom and just having a moment and being like, "Okay," because it did feel um, it did feel pretty intense, you know what I mean, for a second, having all those guys, Wu, T minus, Cole, these guys who are so used to this kind of situation, staring at me, sort of expecting me to deliver.
I mean,
But
that's
we
a
made it
huge
through.
opportunity that you gotta, stand up and take, man, because who
Exactly.
knows where that could have gone, who knows where that goes once
That's the
do it.
thing.
So, man,
That's the thing, and to be honest, there's something I've grown to learn about that crew, and it's specifically with Cole is, you know, Cole's always had this theme of basketball and athletics in his music, and I think he approaches music a little bit to the same degree, like he's always trying to push himself to be better and, to reach higher levels, no different than like an athlete, right? And he likes to kind of do the same thing with the people he works with. It's almost like he's
okay.
putting you through drills, you know what I mean? And he's kinda like, "All right, let's see if you can do this. Like, Imma put you on the spot and see how you handle this," you know?
You're
And
right.
nobody really tells you that's gonna happen, but, I do think it can be nerve-wracking, but it makes you better, man, you know what I mean? It pushes you, you know?
When did you find out that some of these tracks that you were kinda big working with Cole, how did like, when did you find out these are gonna be on the final version of the album? Like, when did you find out? And how
Man,
did you
it's
feel when you knew, when you
yeah,
found out?
yeah. It's the music industry is so crazy that honestly, it's been such a ride. Like, there was different versions of this album as people know. And at one point I think I had maybe one song on it. And then at one point I think, that song got taken off and then it was gonna come out and I didn't have any songs on it, and then all of a sudden we did some new songs and then I had 3 songs on it or something. It was a lot of this, like, roller coaster of emotion. There were definitely times where I was, I thought I wasn't gonna be on it. But I think, man, I'm trying to think, is there an exact I guess, when I knew it was real, was I was working with Cole at the end of November, and, I've learned over the years to be skeptical about releases because you really are promised nothing until it's out. You know, I've I myself have been through this, and I have many producer friends who've been through this where you can get the paperwork, and even once you get the paperwork, something can happen and the song doesn't come out, right? So even the
Facts.
paperwork doesn't necessarily guarantee anything, right? So I think the best mindset is, like, until it's out, you're not celebrating anything. Until you see it on your streaming or you have the, record in hand or whatever, it's like that's the best, the healthiest attitude. Um, but I think when I knew for real that it was real was only a few months ago because I was with Cole at the end of November. He was, trying to do the intro for the album because, I don't know if you know the 29 intros a James Taylor
Yeah,
sample, right?
yeah,
And
yep,
at the time, James Taylor hadn't cleared the sample. And so Cole hit me up like, "Yo, like, we gotta do an intro, like, come down here." And I was like, "Okay, for sure," same type of thing. I went down there, it was Thanksgiving in the US, and, we were just trying to cook up some ideas for the intro for the album, and we did a couple, and I ended up spending Thanksgiving with Mez, his engineer, who shout out to Mez, he's the man, and he mixed
yeah.
like a bunch of records on the did he mix the whole thing? I think anyways, yeah, he's a legend, and he's been Cole's engineer since forever, and just a also great dude, amazing, hilarious guy, shout out to Mez, and, yeah, I had Thanksgiving with him because I ended up being down there, and he was, like, telling me, "Yo, like, 2/6, 2/6," like and I was like, "Oh, he's not
Yep,
gonna miss that date." Like and I was like, "This is, the same guy that did 2014 Forest Hills in 2014." Like, he has a history of doing this kinda thing, and I was like, "That's too perfect, like, 2/6, 2/6." And so that's when I knew, like, "Okay, this is for real." And I already knew all the records I had on the album, but I was still kinda like, "Yo, what's happening?" Like, God forbid something happens last minute and something changes. But once I found out the release date, I was like, "Okay, this is probably pretty set in stone."
that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but congrats on the album though. Like I haven't told you
Thank you.
that yet, but that's
No,
legitimate,
thank you,
man.
man. Appreciate that, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, is there anything like so what has this taught you? You know, just being on this highly successful, highly sought after, anticipated album. What has this taught you, and kind of like where do you plan on? What do your next moves, your next goals.
Mhm,
Going forward.
mhm. Man, what has it taught me? I would say I mean, I don't know if it's so much that it taught me anything. I mean, I learned a lot along the process, don't get me wrong, but I think it's more of like a confirmation of things like, um, really following your passion, doing something that you love. It can take you places you never imagined, but you have to do it because you love it. You know what I mean? I talk about this a lot with T minus too, and Cole as well. He's the same way. It's like you really have to, have the right intention when you're doing something. That always comes
Yeah.
across. If you're passionate about what you do and you're doing it because you genuinely love it, people are going to feel that in whatever you create or whatever it is you do. If you're doing it for some ulterior motive, people are also going to feel that. You know what I mean? So it's that aspect of being genuine, being honest. Guys like Cole and Minus, they're so like honest with themselves. Cole's spoken in the past about like, trying to get hits and doing this thing. And it's like, it's not how he works. He needs to write what's true to him, and you see how powerful his stuff is when he does that, right? It's undeniable. And
100%.
so I think it really confirmed to me the idea that like, you know, you need to follow, maybe it's cliche, but you got to, follow your heart, do the things you're passionate about. If you love something, I'm a big believer that, if you truly love something, then you were put here to do that. You know what I mean? I'm not really like particularly religious or anything, but I do also believe like there is some order to the universe. You know what I mean? And like, why would you have such a strong desire to do something if there was no place for you to be successful in that? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and because I knew ever since I was like 14 that I just love music so like more than anything in the world. And here I am now. It's like I never imagined that these kind of things would happen. And there was a certain point in my life when I didn't even think they ever would. And I was okay with that because I was like, I don't care. I love music. There's nothing else I want to do. At least I'm not wasting my life doing something I don't want to do. Right. And then funny
Facts.
enough, after that is when all this stuff started happening. And so again, I think if you're coming from a pure place, you're doing something from a genuine, good-hearted place where, it's not just about fame or clout or whatever, then I think you can really go far with that, and you can stick through the hard times too, because man, this shit doesn't come easy, you know what I mean? It
No,
doesn't
definitely
just
not. It
you don't
takes years
just,
and years and years, man. Like, there's so many artists,
yeah,
that didn't blow up, quote
yeah,
unquote, until they hit, mid 30s, 40s, and everybody's expecting, if I don't blow up by whatever mid 20s, it's too late and I can't do this anymore, man. You just got to
not
continue to push.
true.
You know what I
It's
mean?
not true
Stay
anymore, yeah. I met T
consistent
Minus when I
for
was
sure.
31,
Yeah,
and I've been playing guitar for almost 20 years, and it was like, I don't know if it woulda gone down the same way if I was younger, you know what I mean? Like, I was already, like, a seasoned professional musician and, an experienced producer, and so, um yeah, man, I really believe that, like, if you do something because you love it and you follow it and you genuinely keep improving and, trying to get better, and you surround yourself with people that are doing the same, then it's just a matter of time, you know? It's just a matter of time and getting out there.
yeah,
It definitely doesn't feel like that.
yeah,
Uh, but I really do believe that, ultimately it's about staying true to yourself, and being honest, I think.
yeah. Have any other opportunities came up or arisen since this album dropped? Artists looking to work with you specifically since they liked the work and what they heard on the album, or
I mean,
are
it's
you planning on
yeah,
going out to work with anybody? Like,
I
what's
definitely
the update
definitely
on
have
that?
plans.
Yeah,
I mean, it's still pretty fresh, but, I would say, like, I definitely wanna expand, I mean, I love working with Cole and working with Minus and definitely gonna keep working with them, but I also wanna get into, like, doing pop stuff. I'm thinking about, making some trips maybe to Nashville, doing some getting into country stuff because guitar is my forte, but I think I can offer maybe something a little different on the guitar. I think that that would be a good place for me to kinda explore. And yeah, and sometimes there's, country and pop artists who want maybe a little bit of that hip hop kind of flavor, right? And
that's the
so
direction music's going, man.
right.
That hip hop flavor is spilling
Yeah.
into all other
Yeah, there's artists
genres.
like Post Malone and stuff, like, he's
Yeah,
somebody I would love to work with. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing specifically that I have planned right now, but, definitely, like I said, I just wanna keep expanding, bro. I'm making great music and really kinda trying to do, um, as many styles as I can, I'm super happy with how, um, things have gone with Cole and as far as, like, rap goes, I feel like it's like, where do you go from here kind of, like, but I
yeah. You
think I
got to
wanna I wanna
keep
get
trending
into
upward, man. Keep trending
right,
upward.
exactly, and I'm definitely gonna keep working with those guys because I mean, cooking up with Cole and Minus is like it's like it's like my favorite thing in the world, you know what I mean? Those guys are like it's like playing with the best band in the world, they're just so talented and so good at what they do, and we just have a great time and we joke around and it's a blast, but that being said, like, I love pop music, I grew up listening to the radio, you know, so I wanna see how far I can take it, man, you know what I mean? Like, Taylor
You
Swift, if
never
you're
know.
listening to this.
Yeah, Taylor
I'm down,
Swift. If you hear this
If you need that,
episode,
if you wanna switch it up for the next album, I got you, Yeah.
that's what's up. I just, you already have been around in the room with legends now, so it's just like you said, man. Continue to go upward and press upward because you just never know what
Yeah.
opportunity may come up. And,
Yeah, you
if
never
you
know.
hadn't met that girl, like you said, you would have never met T minus, and then T minus would have never got you with Cole, and then it's
Yeah.
about connections, man. Truly being down to
Yeah.
earth, man. So
Yes.
you can learn a
Yes.
lot from that type of mindset. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, bro. I was telling, a friend of mine, like, who asked me kind of the same question, like, what advice do you have for younger producers? And I was like, man, I really think it comes down to like two things of, one of them, and they're not that simple, but I do think it's like two big things. And within those, there's like many different things. But the one thing is you have to become undeniable at what you do. You know what I mean? Whether it's making samples, you're a beat maker, you're an instrumentalist, you're a songwriter, you have to become so good, and it takes years, but to the point where look, you're never gonna get everybody to like what you're doing. You can never get everybody to agree that, something is great, but when you reach a certain level, everybody can tell that you know what you're doing, you know what I mean?
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's what I mean when I say undeniable, you know? It doesn't mean that everyone's gonna like your stuff, but it does mean that people will see, "Okay, this person is for real," you know what I mean?
They'll
When I hear
respect the
Right.
work and the grind. They'll be able to hear that
Exactly.
in your work.
Exactly. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. It's sort of, you're operating at that level and there's a certain respect there. And so when your work is truly at that level, you will get that respect and people will inevitably some people will definitely love what you're doing and they'll want to work with you. And if you do that, and then the other
right.
piece of the puzzle is you get out there as much as possible, whether it's on social media, collaborating with different producers, different artists, even if it's just local artists to start with, just getting out there, getting out there, getting out there. You never know. I mean, my Bumble story is a perfect example. You never know where one connection is gonna take you, you know? And,
Right.
I really think that, sometimes I see producers who, it's like they're doing the connection thing really well and they're really hustling the connection, but their music hasn't reached that level yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
haven't quite maybe critiqued themselves enough. And that's not a knock on them. It's just that they haven't, maybe they just need more time,
Right.
Um, and because it takes years, man. Like you got at least 5, 10 years. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
get loops
perfect the
sometimes
craft
from
first.
right,
Perfect the
craft
craft
first.
first, and then those
Exactly.
opportunities will naturally come just from the course of,
Right.
just how nature works, so
Exactly, and if the
continue to work.
product is really good, like, if what you have is really good, somebody's gonna buy it, Somebody's gonna be down for that, right? And not
Right.
everybody, doesn't mean it's everybody's thing, but you're gonna connect with some people, and you only need, like, one, like, for me, it was T-minus, you know what I mean? I'd worked with tons of people before I met T-minus, but he was the one that really clicked and opened the doors to the big leagues, you don't have to, get in with every single person. You just need one person who believes in you. And shout out to T Minus, man. Really, that's my boy, and honestly, just such an inspiration for all of us producers, especially here in Toronto. He's like a big bro to us and a mentor to all of us. And yeah, just honestly, as a person and a and a musician, artist, producer, he's just yeah, I can't say
One of
enough
the
good
best,
about him.
man, for
So
sure. One of the
yeah,
best.
absolutely. So yeah,
So,
bro,
let me ask you this, man.
undeniable
Yeah, no,
and,
100%.
getting out there as much as possible, basically.
Yeah, no doubt. So, let me ask you this, man, if we this is kind of a deeper question. If we were to run this interview back in 5 years,
Mm.
what do you think what would you hope that we're talking about in terms of your
What would I hope?
achievements?
Oh,
Where
like, do
where
another
where have
interview
you
in 5
been?
years?
Yeah, the progression you
Mm,
made since now.
wow. Man, I would hope that I can expand into, different genres, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, I'd really love to get into pop. I think I could really offer a lot in that world. Um, and, yeah, pop, I wanna do some more R&B stuff, country. Um, man, I'm also working on my own artist project, which is kinda slowly coming together.
Okay, yeah, talk about that a little bit more for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I kind of have been like, I've always written songs basically
Uh-huh.
as long as I've been playing guitar almost, but I was so focused on guitar when I was young and then on producing and, just being like a working musician and producer that my sort of artist stuff always kind of took a backseat. But in the last couple years, since I got the studio space here, I just started taking it more seriously and getting into like, really learning about like vocal recording and vocal chains and just like other aspects to production that I wasn't as familiar with. And it started getting me like, oh, what if I record my songs? You know what I mean? Like, what if I try it? So I started making demos and just kind of doing it more and more, and I have like all these demos now that are kind of like half finished songs, and it's very like I'm not rapping or anything, I promise.
I
you
was just
know
gonna ask, man, are you throwing out a few 16s or what? What are you doing?
Bars? Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. No bars from me. I mean, maybe, but it's more singing. It's kind of, I would say the vibe I'm going for is kind of in this indie rock, like Radiohead meets, like, Tame Impala,
Yeah.
Little Bit McGee, Dijon, in that sorta lane,
Yeah. Yeah.
alternative kinda indie thing, which I think, yeah, that feels very true to, like, who I would wanna present myself as an artist, As a producer, I like to
Yeah.
kinda wear different hats, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I'm putting out my music, I want it to really be something that's, like, close to my heart, that really feels like me, you know what I mean? And for me, it's
Yeah.
like my favorite shit in the world is I mean, I keep saying Radiohead, but, like, Radiohead is, like, my favorite band in the world,
For
In
sure.
Rainbows is probably my favorite album of all time. They're just a huge inspiration to me, but also Zeppelin, Floyd, and, yeah, guys like Elliott Smith too, incredible songwriters
Yeah.
like that, and Joni Mitchell, Bon Iver, you know? That's kinda, like, where my heart is, you know?
I feel like, recording, vocals like you're saying, getting the songwriting and stuff like that, that helps the creative process too, right? Because
Oh,
if you're just being one dimensional,
absolutely.
just playing guitar and
Absolutely.
trying to get that on tracks, man, it's kind of like
Yes.
it's limiting yourself. So I mean, I think
Yeah,
that's a great
absolutely.
idea, a great vision to have as well. To
Mhm.
continue to stay creative, come up with
Yeah,
ideas
man,
and,
you gotta do it, and it's making me a better producer too, which is the great thing, you know what I mean? Just a
yeah,
more well-rounded, better producer because I felt like um guitar is my specialty, but I felt like I had a lot to learn about vocal production and how hard it is to, record vocals and layer them and get, like, oh my god, man. When I'm doing 2 takes on the guitar, I can play the same thing, like, in 2 takes, like, no problem, you know what I mean? But when I'm
right.
doing 2 vocal takes and I'm trying to get them to match, it is so difficult, I mean, probably also because 'cause I'm not like Mariah Carey or somebody, but
I mean,
it's
not
but
many people are close, but
right.
yeah, yeah.
Who is? Yeah, I'm not like a singer like that. I'm not, like, doing runs and stuff. I'm more of, like I said,
Yeah,
in the, like, a Tame Impala type of, like, vibey kinda singer, like,
yeah,
but yeah, it was a process too of, like, the production kinda fed into the songwriting, and I started kind of messing around with a lot of stuff and realizing, "Okay, wait, my voice kinda sounds good if I sing like this, or if I kinda produce it like this," So, okay, maybe this is kind of the lane, so oddly enough, producing these demos kind of helped me figure out the direction I wanna go with it, and it's still, like, very much in the works, but yeah, man,
okay.
I'm excited for that. I don't really have, like, huge commercial aspirations for my own project. It's more just something I wanna do because I love it and because I just wanna get these songs out there, you know what I mean? Like, why
Yeah,
not? Why hold them in? And I think it might also serve as, like, a calling card is like, "Oh, I can do this," It's not just like, "Oh,
right.
I'm that guitar guy," And
It's
so, yeah,
proven
I kinda
yourself that you can be more. So
exactly,
that's
exactly, and I
yeah,
love the challenge of, like, trying to, write it, produce it, record it, everything myself, like, it's really making me a better producer, and songwriter and musician, you know what I mean? It's just working on all my skills, and, I definitely was inspired in that way from working with Cole too, because he's just like that, like, he's always trying to the guy's
what was
relentless,
that
man,
kinda
he's just always
difference you
trying to
saw
get better.
creatively from working with him, maybe
Oh,
compared to
man.
others? Yeah,
He's just so driven, man, and so confident, like, Cole just has unbelievable vision, you know what I mean? Like, that's my favorite thing about working with him is he knows what he wants, you know what I mean? And even if he can't do it himself, he knows who to bring in to execute that vision, you know?
yeah,
And, like, the 39 intro, like, when we wrote that song, it was just me and him in his apartment, and he would just like I would play a chord and then he'd be like, "Nah, like, I don't like that chord, like, change this chord," or, like, "Play something, like, left, like, play, like, some weird chord that wouldn't be expected," and I'd, like, try different chords, and then he'd be like, "Nah, like, play something darker, play something lighter, whatever, whatever," and I feel like I kind of was translating his vision in real time, and I
yeah,
honestly thank you to my music school background because I think that helped a lot. When he would say like brighter, I'd be like, okay, maybe like more major, like, and then sure enough, he'd be like, yeah, you know, or I'd be like darker. I'd be like, okay, like this kind of darker. And I think that actually helped me a lot in terms of him wanting to work with me because I was able to sort of translate what he wanted, you know, and we basically built out most of 39 intro that way, you know.
And it takes a real
So,
creative genius to just know exactly what you want, know exactly what you want it to sound like, and just say,
right.
this is what I'm hearing." It's just
Exactly.
crazy, man, how talented some people can be,
Yeah, it's
in
amazing,
that
bro,
aspect.
and, I think sometimes too, it's not even just that he knows exactly, but he even if you play something that's unexpected, but he likes it, he'll be like, "Oh, I didn't think of that, but that's dope, actually, let's do that," you know what I mean? He's
Yeah,
very open-minded too, like, you know, he's open to take it in whatever direction as long as he has to feel it, you know, but again, he's very strong intuition with things like that, you know?
yeah. So right now, I mean, what is your kinda creative process looking like right now? How often are you creating, cooking up? I mean, what
Man,
what
I'm
is your
trying to
kinda
create every day. I try to create every day. I don't necessarily like finish things every single day, but I definitely record demos on my phone almost every day. I definitely try to make it to the studio like 3, 4 times a week, and I'll like try to lay down some ideas. I don't really have that much of a routine, to be perfectly honest. Every time that I've tried to have a routine, I could never really stay with it. I think, I don't know. I believe some people are different, right? But at least for me, I find like creativity is inherently kind of something that you can't control. You know, you can't say like, oh, I'm gonna go like be creative for 3 hours. Like it's like creativity doesn't care about
Yeah.
your timeline. You know what I
Those
mean?
those
It's like
ideas will just pop up into your mind randomly in the middle of
yeah,
the
and that
day,
3 hours can very easily turn into
Yeah,
7, 8, 9, 10 hours, you know what I mean? And so I think you have to be mindful of that and say to yourself like, "Okay, if I'm gonna create, you know, I have to think about that just in terms of, like, life." Like, I was here the other night and I was working on a song of mine. I wrote this whole new song in one night and produced it out and got, like, the whole demo, the lyrics, everything, the vocal recording, like, basically most of the song kinda there. Um,
mhm,
and it took me, you know, like 10 hours, you know, I was here till like 5 in the morning, you know, but I was just like, I just need to do it tonight because if I don't, it's not going to feel the same tomorrow. I'm on this wave right now. I'm inspired. Thankfully, I didn't have anything to do the next day. So I was like, okay, I could just sleep in, whatever. And so I just went for it. And I'm glad, you know, because I got it to a point where it's kinda like the song is like I mean, there's still work to be done, but it's like the structure's there, the lyrics are
right,
there. Most of it is is kinda there, right? If I hadn't pushed through and done that, it wouldn't be that way, you know? But there's other times where I
right,
know I can't do that, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm just gonna cook up a couple ideas, keep it chill, something I can, you know, make some guitar loops or something because that I can knock out in like 30 minutes, half an hour, you know?
yeah.
But if I get really in my creative bag, it's kinda hard to be like, "Oh, I'm gonna stop," like, you know,
How
it's
do how do
yeah.
you fight beat block personally? How do you fight
Man.
it?
I think that honestly, the fact that I have no, like, routine helps, you know, for me,
Right,
because I'll come into the studio one day and like, man, I've tried so hard to be like, "Oh, I'm gonna have this routine and like this dope schedule where like Mondays I'm gonna do this and Tuesday like at the top of the new year, I had this whole thing. I was, you know, with ChatGPT, I was organizing like my whole situation. And
yeah,
I have not followed that at all, you know what I mean? But it's like, I'm not mad at it because I'm still creating a lot. It's just that it's not working on this schedule. And I think I'm kind of realizing like it's a little foolish to like force myself into this schedule if it doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
want to be excited about what I'm making. I want it to feel good. I feel like you hear that in the music. So if I come in one day and I'm like listening to K-pop and I'm just like, yo, I want to make some pop stuff. Like, let's go. Like, and I just make some, and I'm super inspired and I make a bunch of pop ideas or I write a pop song that's gonna come out way better than if I'm like, "No, today's the day where I have to make guitar loops," and so I force myself to make the you know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
go with what you're feeling, man. Creativity is a mystery. The music industry is a mystery. Like nobody really understands how this shit works. You just kind of put stuff out there and hope it lands, and if you make enough stuff and you send it to enough people and it's really good, then eventually things are gonna start to land, you know? But it's you know what I mean? It's kind of a crapshoot. So at a certain point, I was like, what am I forcing myself to have this schedule if it doesn't feel good, you know what I mean? And if it doesn't make the music better, then what am I doing, you know?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. I mean,
yeah.
it's just you gotta do it as long as you're
You gotta
doing
do it.
something.
As long as you do it, whatever works for you.
Something
Some people
is
some people
good.
have a routine and they create, every day at the same time, or they have and man, I respect those people, you know? It's just different strokes for different folks, but for me, sometimes I'll go a day or 2 and not make anything. Sometimes I need a break because it's just like you have to take breaks, man. Creativity is exhausting, you know?
Yeah,
You're 10 hours of being creative is not just like a regular 8-hour day of work, you know what I mean? Because it's like that thing of like, what's it they say, like, the average person in, like, an 8-hour day of work, like, only works maybe 2 or 3 hours, you know?
2 or 3 hours a day. Yeah,
There's a
something
lot
like
more of,
that.
like there's a lot of, like, water breaks and meetings or, like, emails and things that aren't really, like, hard work, but when you're, being creative, you're, like, fully immersed and you're making decisions and you're listening in detail, and it's like, man, like, when I stayed up all night doing that session last week, like, I was fried the next day, you know? I was like, "Man, I can't do anything today." Like, I'm just gonna, like, watch Netflix, you know?
Right.
Because it was just like, I could feel it in my body, and I do think you have to kinda listen to yourself, listen to your body, because 'cause you're not gonna make good music if you're completely cooked, you know what I mean? And
Oh,
you
yeah.
just have no energy, right? So, I think it's a balance. Don't force it and ultimately do it because you're inspired.
I mean, I know you talked about it a little bit, earlier in the episode, but what kind of advice, I mean, one piece of advice that I guess you would give to up and coming producers that are really trying to put their name out there and make it?
Mm. Man, like I said, I think there's kinda like those big 2 things I was saying, like becoming undeniable. I know that sounds easier said than done, but really also finding a lane for yourself, you know what I mean? For me, my, lane sort of opened up, and again, it was very organic. I didn't really intentionally do this, but because I was a guitarist for so long and I studied guitar in school and, like, I was a jazz guitar player and I played guitar at a, high level, that gave me a lane as a producer that most producers don't have, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it made me an asset to people like T Minus or Cole, you know what I mean? Um, now, I can't make beats like T Minus, you know what I mean? I mean, very few people can, you know?
Yeah.
That's his expertise. He's a master at that. He's been making beats as long as I've been playing guitar, you know? But I think that if you can find a lane for yourself, and be able to complement other producers and artists with that thing, whether it's you're a sample maker or you're really good at a specific kind of drums or an instrument or, whatever. Um, there's certain guys who are just really another guy who's really good is Mario Luciano, my boy Mario Luciano in Seattle, man. He and I have been cooking up, and we just met last summer when I went out to Seattle to cook with him, and he has this incredible, like, vintage studio. Everything is from the '60s, everything. The microphones, the console, everything's literally, like, going back in time, and it's so dope because that's, like, his thing, you know what I mean? He's just found his thing, and when he makes samples, it just sounds like it's like you're transported back in time, it's really, really dope, and there's very few people doing that, you know what I mean? Like, he's kinda the only person I think doing it at that level in that way, like, so authentically. There's a reason so many producers like Conductor and Minus and all these people love, using his stuff, right? And so that's a guy to me who, again, has, like, found his niche, and his lane. For me, it was, the guitar and how I integrate the guitar into productions, I was able to use my, like, guitar skills to be able to come up with guitar parts that would complement songs, that's what I try to do. It's not just about how, shredding and whatever, playing crazy stuff, but, like,
Right.
really coming up with things that will complement songs, and finding the right chord voicings, the right patterns, the right progressions, and so I was able to use my training in music in a way that would, again, complement, the producers I work with, the artists I work with, and so I think, if you look at T Minus, he's again somebody who's found his lane just as a beat maker, as a producer, like he's unbelievable drum programmer, also unbelievable at making melodies and stuff on the computer too, but, like, he doesn't need anything other than a laptop to make some fire, you know? He's just
Mhm.
that's how he works, you know? And so versus, like, Mario has, like, his whole vintage '60s studio, I have, like, all my guitars and whatever, but it's like, I think each one of those guys, you know, they've kind of found a lane, you know what I mean? Each one of us. And there's, you know, there's a lot of great producers like that. I mean, I could go on and on, you know, there's guys like F and Z, incredible sample makers, you know, Vinyls is another unbelievable producer. He
Whew.
did the second half of 39 intro, which is just
Yeah.
such a crazy beat, you know. Um,
Crazy. Oh
Crazy,
my
right?
gosh.
I think I was Vinyls and F and Z, man, they snapped on that, so shout out to those guys. But yeah, you know, it's, again, like or like you think about, you know, a Timbaland or a Pharrell, you know, or even like a Jack Antonoff or a Max Martin, you know what I mean? Like these kind of guys, like they have sounds, they have lanes that they've developed. They're not good at everything. They're not the best at everything. No, you can't be the best at everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
But what you
But they
can
do
do is
exactly
do
what they're good
your
at
thing.
so well to where it's just better than anybody
Right.
else,
Like,
and
are
they
you gonna
match
do
that on.
Pharrell better than Pharrell? Like,
Yeah,
no.
no, no.
No one's gonna
No,
do that.
nobody. Yeah,
So you
right,
might as well do your thing, you know what I mean? It's like and figuring out what that is, you know what I mean? And for me, at a certain point, especially in the last 5 years, I really realized that, like, one of my biggest assets as a producer is the way that I can bring guitar into any type of production in any style, you know? And all different types of guitar I can pull from rock and pop and indie music and acoustic music, folk music, whatever, and that's where I become an asset because you can't do that with a MIDI keyboard, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Or
mhm,
whatever, right? And so, so again, I think finding a lane for yourself and really developing that to a super high level and becoming undeniable, like I was saying, you know, when you reach a really high level at something, you know, it's like even if it's not your thing, you gotta respect it, you know?
right,
And, yeah, you know, that's how I felt when I listened to, like, Mario's samples for the first time, like, I was just like, "Whoa, this is like I feel like it's the '60s again," you know? This is so crazy, but then when I finally started working with him, I remember being in there recording and, like, literally in real time, I had the headphones in and I'm like, "Oh, man, like, I feel like I'm playing on an old jazz record, like, this is crazy," like, you know, and it's obviously because it's all the same gear, right?
right,
And I was just like, "It's crazy how committed this guy is to that sound," you know what I mean? And so, you know, I think, again, it's like, if you want that type of sound, you're gonna think immediately of him, you know?
right, right.
And so I think, yeah, finding a niche for yourself is really, really, like a superpower, getting undeniable at it, and then just getting out there, man, as working with as many people as possible, because you never know where that one, you know, that
And you're a
one
testament to that.
Yeah,
You got a
yeah,
testimonial for that.
absolutely, man. You never know when one right swipe might, you know, change your life, you know?
One right swipe. That's That's what's
Yeah.
up, man. Hey, I appreciate you hopping on here today, man. Once again, Steve, I appreciate you hopping on the podcast. If you guys enjoyed the episode, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and go ahead and leave some feedback on the bottom of this video. I would greatly appreciate it. More podcast episodes coming soon, though. Hope you guys did enjoy it, like I said, and I will catch you all on the next video. Peace.